Is a quick translation and walkthrough of Chapter 3 in the Garden. We will translate this several times in class, at least 2 or 3, but if you would like to study, this is available for you. So in pictura est puer Romanus. So in the picture, est, he is, or it is, or there is, a Romanus puer, a Roman boy, nomine Marcus, by the name Marcus, qui in villa rustica habitat, who lives, is living, does live, remember all three, in the countrified country house. Now, please pay attention to the qui that is here. Previously, in the first 2 chapters, we saw the word quae, Q-U-A-E, which meant who. But that's before quae was referring to girls, and thus quae is the feminine form of who, whereas qui here is the masculine form of who. Etiam in pictura, also in the picture, est alter puer. There is another boy. Now please pay attention to the word alter that is here, another. Remember, the feminine form would be altera. Now normally, the way that it works as we encounter it is that if it is masculine, it will have the ending us on it, like Marcus or Sextus. But often you will have masculine words that don't have an ending at all, including the word puer, like you see right here. And so since there are some nouns that are masculine that do not have an ending at all, but just happen to end with puer, then you will also have here, as you can see, adjectives that don't have an ending at all. So alter instead of what we would expect it to be, which is alterus. Puer instead of what we would expect it to be, puerus. You see it down here as well with the word vir, which of course means man. No ending us, but us, as you can see on servus and davus, very often is the ending that indicates masculine, whereas of course a is the ending that indicates feminine. So there is another boy, nomine, by the name Sextus, qui in eadem villa rustica habitat, who lives, is living, does live in the same countrified country house. Eadum, or eadem, is the word that means the same. Marcus et Sextus sunt amici. So Marcus and Sextus are, and remember, amici is really an adjective that means friendly, but we can substantize it, which means that if we imply the noun with the adjective, in this case, since it has a long I, then we are going to indicate boys or masculine things. The singular of a noun that is masculine usually has a us, like here in line 4, you see servus. When indeed amicus would be the singular, when you make it plural, you take off that us and you simply add an I. Since words like puer and vir don't have a us, to those you would just simply add an I, which you can see pueri right here in line 3. So Marcus and Sextus are, and of course sunt, all linking verbs are equal sign. Since Marcus and Sextus is plural and masculine, on the other side you need amici to be plural and masculine as well. Again, take off the us and you add an I to make it into the masculine plural. Now remember, amici is really the adjective, and so therefore as a complement predicate adjective, it would be Marcus and Sextus are friendly, where of course if we substantize it, friendly masculine things, we could just simply say friends, and at that point the adjective can turn into a noun. It's a substantive. Hodie. Today, pueri, the boys, and again, to make it puer plural, all we did was add an I. We didn't have to take anything off because puer and vir are those masculine nouns that do not have a us ending, no ending at all. The boys clamant, shout, are shouting, do shout, in horto, in the garden. Et rident, and they laugh, they are laughing, they do laugh, quod laeti sunt, because they are happy. Here, we, of course, can supply the subject they due to the nt on sunt. So in sunt, you have both the subject and the fact that it's a linking verb, and here then laeti is your complement predicate adjective. We're quoque est in pictura nominate davus. A man also is in the picture. And the we're here, again, is one of those masculine nouns that does not have a us ending. It doesn't have any ending at all, just ends with r. So is in the picture, nominate davus, by the name Davus, or Davis, or Dave, if you would like. Qui est servus, who is a slave. Qui would be your subject, est is your linking verb equal sign, and servus is your complement predicate nominative. It is the noun that renames the subject qui. Please make sure that you translate the word servus as slave. It is not the word for servant. The word for servant is actually another masculine noun that doesn't have an ending but ends with R, and that would be the word minister. You also have what I am, which of course is a magister. So the 4 or 5 words that you need to know that are masculine that do not have a US ending include puer, wir, minister, which is servant, not servus. Servus is slave. And then of course magister and ager, actually. That word we had in the last chapter, in agris and ex agris. If the word for field were singular and functioning as a subject, it would be ager, ager. In Italia sunt multi servi qui in agris, there we see it, et in vilis rusticis laborant. In Italy, there are, remember, they are or there are, multi servi, many slaves who, and again the qui is masculine with that form, laborant, work, are working, do work in the fields and in the countrified country houses. Because agris and vilis rusticis are both plural and objects of the preposition in, they have a different form and a different ending, long is. Pueri sunt Romani. The boys are Roman, and here, nominative plural subject, equal sign, nominative plural complement. But again, remember the word Romani is an adjective, and we could substantize it. So as an adjective, the boys are Roman. But if we were to want to turn it into a noun and imply Roman boys, Roman masculine things, we could say the boys are Romans. So the boys are Roman, complement predicate adjective. The boys are Romans, complement predicate nominative by making it a substantive. Sed Davus non est Romanus, but Davus is not Roman. Davus, if we were to substantize it, is not a Roman, as in a Roman masculine thing or Roman man. Est, we're Britannicus. He is, remember that you have the T, a British man, we're Britannicus, qui jam in Italia laborat, who now works, is working, does work in Italy. Sextus and Marcus, quod sunt pueri Romani, because they are Roman boys. Again, your subject is in the verb, sunt with the nt. Sunt is an equal sign, making then puer Romani the complement. And since it's pueri, a noun, complement predicate nominative. Non laborant. So because they are Roman boys, non laborant, they do not work. They are not working. They work not. Non. Davus solus laborat. Davus alone works. Davus works alone. Comma. Eratus then is merely another adjective modifying Davus. There's no reason, and it does not say it in Latin, to say he is angry. There is no est here. It's just that Davus works alone, comma, Davus implied angry, quod, because the boys clamant are shouting, do shout, et in horto currunt, and they are running, they run, they do run in the garden. Subito statua in piscinam cadet. Suddenly, the statue falls, is falling, does fall into the fish pond. Now, this is very important. Pay close attention. So, whenever you have the word in, and your ending of the object of that in this case, fish pond, is an am or a um or an em, you will translate it in as into. So, into the fish pond. But if we go all the way up back to the top, and do you see in Wila, it does not have an am, a um, or an em, so up here it would be merely in the country house. Now, if it were in Wilam, in that instance, it would be into the country house. Likewise, if you were to look here on line 3 or down here in line 7 in Horto, in does not have a word following it as its object with an am, a um, or an em. It has a long O, and so you would merely say in the garden. But if you wanted to say into the garden, it would be in hortum. And so down here, that's why we are translating the in as into. Suddenly the statue falls into the fish pond. Sextus ridet. Sextus laughs. Is laughing, does laugh. Marcus quoque ridet. Marcus also laughs. Sed Davus. And then here's the verb that Davus does in the last line, clamat. But Davus shouts, abite, go away, molesti. pests. Now, the word molesti is actually an adjective, and it means annoying. But since it is obviously here masculine and plural, you can tell because of the long I, we can substantize it. And what are annoying masculine things? Well, they are pests. If ever you've had to deal with a middle school boy, you know that that is indeed a good translation for what they are when they are annoying. Pests, annoying masculine things. So go away, pests. Go away, annoying ones, annoying masculine things, annoying boys, if you would like. He shouts, et, and he, the eratus, the angry one, runs ad piscinam, to the fish pond, towards the fish pond, at the fish pond. Now, again, we pointed this out in the previous chapter 2C, exercise 2C actually. We would want to say, and he runs angrily. In English, we understand it to be as describing how he does the action, and thus we use the adverb angrily. But in Latin, that would require the US to be taken off, and instead there be a long E, like we had last chapter, the word lente, slowly. In Latin, they, instead of using an adverb, they like to take an adjective and modify the subject. And the subject here is he, referring most likely to Davus. He shouts, and he, Davus, angry, runs to the fish pond. But it has the force of what we would understand in English as saying he runs angrily. Literally, he angry runs. Idiomatically, or a little more freely, he runs angrily, although that is truly not an adverb. It has the force of one. Pueri ex horto currunt. The boys run out of the garden, and Davus groans. So that was a quick run through. Hopefully you will use it to study for both the multiple choice over this chapter and for the vocabulary that is over this chapter again. So good luck studying, and I hope you do put in some time learning these words, learning the content, learning the concepts, and best of luck.